Judaism 101, random disparate things that I think will add to your fund of Jewish knowledge. We do have in today's Torah portion a brief phrase that you hear over and over again when people talk about the Ten Commandments, the Decalogue, and rabbinic thought as well, and that is the term na'aseh v'nishmat. Na'aseh v'nishma, often translated as we will do, then we shall understand. Na'aseh means to do, and one of the meanings of the word nishma can mean understand, although literally the Hebrew means hear, and more deeply the Hebrew word lishmoa also means to hearken. So here's something I'd like you to realize. Oftentimes, the midrashic understanding of a term in the Bible becomes what we call the peshat of the Bible. So a few different words here. It's very important. You all know the terms peshat and drash. Peshat means the way that a biblical scholar might read the text, or an Israeli fluent in Hebrew who can read the text just as it is, kifshuto, just as the words are stated. Now, even to read the Bible just as it's stated, you of course have to know Hebrew vocabulary, you have to know Hebrew grammar, you have to know Hebrew syntax, how sentences are created. You have to know something about Hebrew semantics, how meaning is created. So just reading what is called the Pishuto Shel HaMikra, the basic meaning of the text, I'm not saying that is not a complex endeavor. In fact, as a teacher of Bible virtually my entire adult life and a teacher of Siddur, one thing I realize is people jump into the text and they are reading what they think the text means without any what I'll call philological study of the words, syntactical understanding of Hebrew sentence construction, Hebrew semantics, how meaning is created. They sometimes feel the text means what I want it to mean. Of course, that violates every rule of text interpretation. So there is something called Pishuto Shel Mikra, the basic meaning of the text. It's not easy, but it's worthwhile. Now, what's added to that is some teachings in the Midrash, so this is the rabbinic commentary on the Bible, become so well known that people actually forget the Peshat. So if you've known me for more than 5 minutes, you know that I very much prefer that people say, here's the Peshat, here's the Drash, here's the Pishuto Shel HaMikra, the basic grammatical, syntactical meaning of the biblical text as it is, and here's how the rabbis add to it. Or you can say, and my drash. I oftentimes do it. Here's the Peshat, here's the rabbinic drash, here's the Hasidic drash, and here's my drash. I like to break those things down so people don't think that what I think is actually what the text says, or what the rabbis think is actually what the text says. So we're going to take this term, na'aseh v'nishma. In rabbinic Judaism, is kind of a heroic statement. Na'aseh is we shall do, we shall perform. Nishma, then we shall understand. Now, this is a very astute understanding of human psychology, and that is sometimes only in the doing do we understand. And this is a remarkable insight into human psychology and also devotion to a tradition. We don't have to understand everything. We engage in the doing out of trust. We trust that in general the tradition is trustworthy, even sometimes advice from another person. You've all given people advice and they say, well, I don't know if that's the best advice. And say, look, all the advice I've given so far has been trustworthy. Don't fight me on this one. You might just do what I'm asking you to do. I oftentimes do this where people, I'll counsel someone to try a certain behavior. Intuitively, they don't think it's right because sometimes the Yetzer Hara takes over intuitions. And I say, well, trust that intuition later. You might just want to try it this way and see what happens next. So, na'aseh v'nishma, psychologically insightful as far as trusting the source, commit to the doing, and then understand it later. But that's not what the biblical phrase means. Na'aseh means we shall do, nishma means we shall obey. Now, in biblical Hebrew, in Hebrew sentence construction, not only biblical Hebrew, but foundationally biblical Hebrew, there's a phenomenon called hendiadys. Hendiadys. You probably don't use this word very often. I think it's only used in study of the Bible. H-E-N, hen, D-I-A, D-I-A, dis, D-Y-S. Hendiadys, just like it sounds. Hendiadys means when you use two words to communicate one idea And the idea usually has an adjective or an adverb in it. So for example, we say, it was nice and warm in the room. Nice and warm. Now, what we mean, it was nicely warm, or nice and warm communicating one idea. What we don't really mean is, it was nice and then it was warm. When it says na'aseh v'nishma, it doesn't break it down in a temporal, linear way, we shall do and then we shall understand. It's like saying, it was nice and then it was warm. So as a biblical phrase, hendiadys, two words creating one idea, what does na'aseh v'nishma actually mean? It means we shall obediently perform. The Hebrew word lishmoa both means to listen, but also to hearken. Lishmoa bikoli in Hebrew, when God says, listen to my voice, it actually means hearken to my voice. So from a biblical Hebrew perspective, na'aseh v'nishma does not mean we shall do and then come to understand. In biblical Hebrew, it simply means we shall obediently do. So whenever you hear the term na'aseh v'nishma, remember in the Bible it means we promise obedient action. Na'aseh v'nishma, we will obediently follow instructions. We will do exactly what we've been told. The rabbis break it down more philosophically. I'll talk about that a little more today, because the rabbis understand, as I said earlier, a feature of human psychology that sometimes we may not fully understand what's being asked of us because we have resistance, because of the Yetzer Hara. But we say to ourselves and maybe to the teacher, I'll do this from trust. I really don't understand it. Understanding comes in the doing. So there are two different ideas. And as you know, my preference is when we teach these biblical phrases, we teach the Peshat and then we teach the Drash.